OG Rose here, and today we're going to be talking about a paper called Trivial. It's very inspired by the work of Neil Postman, who wrote a nice work called Teaching as a Subversive Act. He also wrote Teaching as a Conservative Act, End of Education. He's very famous for his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. And was really inspired by the thinker Marshall McLuhan, who once said the medium is the message. And what he meant by that was the idea that the fact we receive a story or news off the television has a massive impact on how we understand the information, how we internalize the information, as opposed to if we receive the very same news from out of a book. McLuhan makes distinctions between hot and cold mediums, and how when you sit, say, at a TV, your brain's not very active. It's much more passive as it receives the news. Where if you read it out of a book, it's much more active. And so the likelihood of you, say, being critical about the same news story out of a book is higher than out of the TV. Not necessarily. And McLuhan wasn't too interested in saying that technology was bad or TV was bad. He wasn't interested in that. But really, he wanted to make us aware that the choice of our medium was just as significant as our choice of our content. Now, Postman's going to take this thinking and apply it to school, and he's very interested in what the structure of the classroom, the structure of lessons plans, and things like that teach us beyond the content of the classroom and those lessons plan. And what I like to, and he has this line in the book where he says, the critical content of any learning experience is the method or process through which the learning occurs. And I took his thinking to suggest that a lot of what we learn in school today is how to be good at trivia, which unfortunately trivializes information. But, the teacher's at the front of the class, they ask a question, and the smartest one is whoever can raise their hand and come up with the answer first. There's these random facts, these random dates, and it really creates this impression that the educated person is someone who's good at trivia. Now, this isn't to say that schools all fail or that nobody learns anything from that, but it's to really focus on how the structure of school itself implies being good at trivia is to be an educated person. And I think we see this, if you're in a conversation and somebody asks, "Oh, what was the name of the umpire or the baseball player last night who hit the home run, or what year was Barack Obama born?" People quickly whip out their phones and look it up as if there's some open loop in the air that has to be closed or everyone's going to be stupid. And so there's this, you really can sense this sort of nervousness and of not answering trivia questions that come up. And also, a educated conversation is considered one to be where there's a constant exchanging of questions and trivia and stuff like that. And I think this is a holdover from school. And I don't think it's restricted to elementary school. I think it happens in college as well, even as colleges claim they do the Socratic method. There's a lot of this trivia sort of education going on. And, Postman offers us a list of some of the lessons that the classroom structure teaches us. Passive acceptance is more desirable response to ideas than active criticism. Discovering knowledge is beyond the power of students, is in any case none of their business. Recall is the highest form of intellectual achievement, and the collection of unrelated facts is the goal of education. The voice of authority is to be trusted. One's own ideas and those of classmates are inconsequential. Feelings don't matter. There is always a single right answer. And if it can't be put into a subject, it really doesn't matter. And you get that with trivia, because if someone's asking trivia questions and somebody in the room knows the answer and they're going to be able to tell you if you answered it right or not, there's also a sense in which you only get value in that context if you can answer the question correctly. And so, again, education creates this sense that to be intelligent is to be good at trivia. And this is very different from, say, being able to think on the spot, being able to think of ideas you've never thought of before, to be able to respond creatively and critically to new information. To understand, and I think this is really important in a democracy, to understand that there's not always a clear right answer, and also very often decisions entail trade-offs between competing goods, between privacy and freedom and so forth. But if you're brought up your entire life led to believe that to every problem there's an answer, that educated people know the answer and are good at trivia, well, then you're going to have a very incorrect impression for the kind of decisions that have to be made to make a democracy function. And if Postman is correct and school gives us this impression that education is trivia, then we are not well equipped to be creative or to politically function in the American system. And again, this is not a attack on all education or anything like that, but it is an interesting analysis for why we need to be aware that the methods and mediums of education themselves are just as important as the content. If you learn extremely valuable content but do so in a manner that suggests that trivia is the hallmark of an educated person, then you're going to carry that information around with you to be good at trivia, as opposed to, say, use it to learn the truth. There's this, I guess it's The Will in the World by Schopenhauer, where he has this metaphor of a ladder. And he talks about someone who finds the ladder and climbs it toward the sun, and then someone else comes along with a big sack, and he starts loading the bag up with the rungs of the ladder and carrying them around. And this is his way of saying that education was increasingly becoming the collection of information and facts to show off, as opposed to using that information to climb toward some truth or to achieve something. And I think if Postman's analysis is correct, we're all being trained by the classroom to be these bag carriers, these rung collectors, as opposed to using the rungs to climb somewhere. And Postman later on retracted some of his thinking and teaching as a conserving act, because he thought we went too far in the direction of the subverting act, and his final book on it was The End of Education. And I encourage you to give those all a read. And so anyway, this has been O.G. Rose. Thank you for your time. If you're interested in more, please visit www.ogrose.com and have a good day.